Oh, I've bought a coffee machine.
Have you?
That's something we should have said at the top of the show. I've bought a coffee machine for £50, brand new. Nespresso are selling their like small kind of, it just fits in the corner of the kitchen. It's normally £120. And they're doing a special deal for like of this week, £50 plus 50 free pods. I don't know if they're trying to get rid of old stock, but I don't care. I bought it.
I mean, the joy in your face when you told me that story, Alex, is the most excited I've seen you in 2 years. So I'm delighted, genuinely delighted for you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Walford Weekly, your weekly EastEnders podcast, where this week we'll be discussing the episodes released on the BBC in the UK from Monday the 20th to Thursday the 23rd of February 2023. I hope you're all well. I trust that you all are. My name is Alex, and I cannot host this podcast by myself. I cannot. So I might as well do it with this guy. Hello, Rob. How are you?
Hello, Alexander. Very, very well. Thank you. How are you? Look at you with your glasses on this week. You've got your goggles on. Looks very nice. Suits you.
I have. I feel like I should just tell you that I've got a small headache and my vision is a bit blurry today. I feel like deja vu's kicking in again. It's kicking in again. Before
behind the scenes, the second time we've had to do this because Alex's internet is rubbish. I
don't know. Yours was the video that went down, not mine. So I think the debate there.
Everything was fine on my side, young man.
Everything was fine on my end too. For my picture, but there you go. Wow. My picture being sent to you was good. So it must be the picture that's being sent to me that's wrong.
Oh, I think you've known that all along, really, haven't you? Well, what we need to say, ladies and gentlemen, is thank you very, very much for all your messages that you've sent us. In case you missed the bombshell that Alex dropped last week, Walford Weekly, as it is now, will be coming to an end on episode 250, and then I'll be going off into other places with a podcast after that. And thank you. Yes, much seedier places. It's going to be filth. And thank you very much for all your messages. They've been lovely. Genuinely touched us, some of them. You, Alexander, have broken people's hearts. Yes. So I hope you're proud of yourself. Yeah, I am a little, to be fair. No, I'm not. Good. I mean, as I say, to echo what Rob said, I've had some really lovely messages myself. And again, yeah. And people been getting in touch and being really sweet and understanding, and it's been great. So yes, thank you to everyone who's reached out to us. And as I say, it might be the end of Walford Weekly, but it's not the end of EastEnders podcasts, as we've got Rob's very exciting podcast to come. And believe you me, from what I've heard, it's going to be hotter than a hot thing in a hot desert. A hot thing in a hot desert is exactly what it's going to be. And as irritating as the sand that gets into all those places. I can guarantee that. So we've still got 5 episodes left, and that includes this week, which was quite the week, I think you will agree. So I think we better get on with discussing it.
We are starting as the show started with Monday's episode, but a little bit different. We're going to talk about the one episode because the way it's been put forward as a element of the show is that this is kind of like this is a sense of things to come. Yes. This is what has been teased for the last couple of weeks with all those trailers, and we're all like, a lot of iconic women stood outside the Vic. There's Kathy crying. There's Suki looking a bit concerned. What could it possibly be
going on?
And last week we kind of threw out the idea. Wonder if it could be a flash forward episode. And I said, that's very dangerous. Hollyoaks have done that in the past, and that means you've laid your track for 9 months. No one can get pregnant, no one can get a haircut, and no one can do anything wrong.
Nope, nothing whatsoever.
That's probably why Kat's not involved with it, because I think that there might have been danger there. Let's be honest. Jesse's been a bit naughty in the past, and so we don't want like actresses they suddenly disappear. So they're doing this flash forward. Anyway, we were right with the flash forward episode. We were correct. However, the build up to that point was that it was a very eloquent and very sublime, in my opinion, episode based in the Vic, which is very rare nowadays. It reminded me a bit of the Consent Story again, when they did the camera kind of panning around different stories in different parts of the Vic. And this time it focused on Sharon, Denise, Kathy, Linda, Stacey, and Suki, which then cultivated to this flash forward, which
Yes.
EastEnders very helpfully told us Christmas 2023.
It could have been any Christmas. Could have been any Christmas, couldn't it? They could have gone. Could have been 2 years
Yes,
in the
you're
future.
right. Oh, I know, you're right. It just cracked me up though. They just felt the need to put this caption at the bottom of the screen just in case. But yeah. So let's talk about Monday's episode then. So
Yes.
obviously, that Denise is feeling a bit like lost. She gets a bit drunk. Suki gets kind of like ignored by Nish, even though she's the one who kind of cleverly negotiated getting the contract to take over the Vic from Linda. More on that a bit later on.
Yes.
Sharon has a bit of a bunk up with Keanu in the toilet, but then finds out that Keanu has slept with Sam all to the end. And Linda, what else happened? Stacey's feeling a bit like kind of like upset that nothing's kind of going her own way. Kathy was kind of like the agony aunt of the whole occasion, wasn't she? She kind of like went from person to person and kind of looked after them, and then they kind of had their off shots and talked to one another separately before we then did the flash forward, which we'll talk about as well in a second. So highlights, bits you loved, bits you didn't think worked quite so well.
I mean, well, the thing is, I loved it once it was just the women in the Vic. And if I had any criticism of Monday's episode, it would be that I wished that had gone on for longer. It seemed like we only got the lock-in section of it that had been like really kind of publicized for like the last 10 minutes of the episode. And I was kind of looking forward to that bit because I knew what we were going to get once we got to that bit, in terms of it was just going to be a load of character stuff and the women just all chatting to each other. And what we got of that was brilliant. And I would have liked more of that. But it did a really good job of sort of just putting all the women in and sort of letting us know where the women are at in terms of their stories and their mindsets. Denise, like you said, got quite drunk and made a move on Ravi. It's like, well, Sharon's done it in the loose, why don't we do it in the loose? The women of Walford are class personified, aren't they? Aren't they just the classiest set of birds you've ever met?
It also made me laugh that that's the same spot that you want to have sex with Ravi. It's the same spot where your sister gave birth to poor Pearl. So keeping it like I know, lush. Let's do it where the afterbirth was.
Christ alive. Sharon was in ultra classy mode. Denise was in ultra classy mode. Ravi turns her down. Now, I've got stuff to say about Ravi when we talk about the Denise and Ravi stuff later in the episode. But Ravi at the moment kind of turns her down and says, "No, I want you sober. I don't want any of this. None of this drunken messiness. Thank you very much." So Denise gets more drunk as a response to that. Jack stormed off at one point because they're just sort of bickering.
Jack was useless though. He was playing on his phone. If I was having a night out, especially after the kind of troubles that Denise has sort of openly said she's having with Jack, like she's kind of openly said, like, you don't really treat me very well. Our romantic type side, our kind of spontaneous side is dying, and then take you to the Vic to then sit there playing on his phone, play Candy Crush or something all night. Like, I would be pretty pissed off as well if I was Denise. So I don't blame her on this one. Stupid Jack. And Brannings. And then
Suki's left on her own because Linda is kind of panicking about the stuff in the Vic, and Nish and Suki walk out the back. Nice little move, I thought. Nice little moment, character point, I should say, or a character beat, when Nish kind of follows Linda out and hangs his coat up. That was quite a power move, I thought. That kind of just spoke about what sort of person Nish is, isn't it? Just like, I live here now. In his brain, he owns the Vic. In his brain, he owns the Vic already because he's decided he wants it, so he has it. So he just hangs his coat up. I thought that was quite a nice little moment. And then he basically implies that, screw Sharon, I've got the money for you, and everything's going to be fine. And do you want Sharon running around having sex in your loos and telling you how to do your upholstery? Me and Suki won't do that. So Linda's kind of like, oh, okay, I'll think about it. And obviously Suki is the one that sort of seals the deal because she can see that Linda is sort of being quite resolute and saying, no, I want Sharon to do this. And then Suki steps in and sort of does her thing. It's the one that kind of basically makes it so that Linda will then think about it. And Nish then completely bypasses that and implies that it was all its own work and just makes Suki feel worthless. And then he's then talking to Suki later and says, well, Linda's going to be gone soon because we're getting rid of her. And Suki is kind of like, that's not fun. That's not fair. And goes for Lou, and Nish gets all kind of uppity, thinking about, this woman that's daring to back answer him. Storms out the Vic and leaves Suki on her own, sort of humiliating her because everyone could see that she was sort of left behind. And then Stacey is kind of panicking because Ryan has messaged Lily asking her to come for Christmas. Some nerve, the way they left things, I think. It's
yeah.
So it basically leaves all these women kind of alone in the Vic at the end, and there's some really nice kind of moments there, some really nice conversations. Suki and Stacey have a great conversation. I really liked that moment where it was sort of Stacey saying, "Look, I know what's going on with Eve," because Stacey currently is the only person that knows what's going on with Eve. And she says, "Look, if you want someone to talk to you about this, talk to me." And Suki's all touched because she's not used to people actually being nice to her. So there was that nice moment. And then everything seems fine. These women are just kind of partying around and just having a great time, discussing like musicians they used to fancy. And, everyone's getting drunk and sticking the music on because they've had this lock-in. By the way, great friends to Linda, by the way. She's going through some stuff, ex-alcoholic, and their solution is, right, let's have a lock-in. You have a great time on the OJ, and we'll just all get hammered. Really.
To be fair, though, Linda seemed a bit smug by the fact that in the following morning they all hung over in the Vic.
You are, though,
was kind of like, "I'm sober as a judge, and I'm having a lovely morning."
Well, Kathy was
like bacon.
70-year-old Kathy, absolutely fine, got absolutely hammered all night, and then was off, and then didn't wake up face down on the Vic floor the next morning like the rest of them did.
I was surprised by Sharon as well, because I thought Sharon could handle her drink better than she did. Sharon's had many years of experience as well of drinking herself like a
Hasn't
fish.
she just?
We should also point out that Linda had a text message from
from Carly.
Shirley. From Carly?
Yeah, it was from Carly.
Shirley had visited, and there was a picture of Dean in the mirror in the background. It reminded me a bit like Ring. You know that film Ring? When like the woman's brushing her hair and you see that person in the mirror. I don't know why, I just did. And so that kind of upset Karen too, Linda too, because that brought back a lot of memories of obviously the story from a few years back when Dean had raped her on the kitchen table upstairs in the Vic.
That building's got so many happy memories for everybody. Why would anyone want to live there? Like, why does Sharon want to live there? Because she's lost so many people because of that place. Linda's been raped there. I don't know. And Kat's had bad times in there. I don't know why anybody. Stacey's murdered people in there. I don't know why anybody would set foot in that building ever again after everything that's happened to these poor women.
This is the funny thing, because we're going to be talking about the flash forward in a minute, but something Ben and I kind of sat down and kind of noticed, and we thought maybe this is already a hint of what's going on with the flash forward, is that obviously they split up into groups of two.
Yeah,
Sharon and Denise kind of agree, like had very similar stories together, that they both feel like loveless, and they both want to have this fling or with a younger man. Kathy and Linda were quite similar because Wilmot Brown had raped Kathy as well. And she said you shouldn't let a man kind of take over your life by this one moment. And Stacey and Suki, although they had the Eve thing, which is very similar, they had together, I felt like that Stacey's one thing that she had that Suki didn't have was that she murdered someone in the Vic. So do you think that's already a subtle hint that Suki who had murdered someone in the Vic? A little clue.
That's good. I like that.
I picked up on that.
Oh, that's good. I mean, you could also argue that, if a lot of comparisons I've seen have been made between Nish and Archie. So they've kind of, they've got that sort, the sort of character Nish is going to be. So maybe that, interesting.
So I wondered if that was kind of a little drop of a hint.
To briefly kind of discuss the photograph that Linda got. Okay. Number one, is Dean coming back? Is this a hint that that Dean's coming back soon, do you think?
Well, see, this is another theory I've got. I've got lots of theories, but I think Dean might be returning, and I think there's a good possibility that Dean could be the one who's dead on the floor. So
it's a possibility. Yeah.
Moves things to adapt.
Together. Let's talk about the flash forward, because it went from all of these women sort of kind of holding it up and saying and making quite a key statement of saying, may all the men get what they deserve, and then we cut to Christmas 2023, where all of these women are standing around. There's an undisclosed male body on the floor, which Sharon says he's dead, and that's what we've got to come on Christmas 2023. Now, before we even go into any of the theories and everything, I mean, are you with me on this when I say I think it's a genius idea? I really, really do, because the EastEnders Christmas Day episode has always been known as the key episode of EastEnders. Theoretically, everything that happens in the year is building up to Christmas Day. So why the hell not start building up to it now and start saying, this is what is happening on Christmas Day. And now we're going to find out how it happens. Genius.
Wind us up early.
Genius idea. Brilliant.
I mean, and also for the past couple of years, I've been saying like, oh, is there a point to a Christmas episode anymore? It's kind of lost its kind of impact it used to have. This is almost sticking a middle finger up, not just directly to me, but to like anyone who thinks about it, which is fine because I love to be proven wrong. And I love that Chris Clenshaw's gone, you know what, Alex, bugger off with your thoughts because you know what, this Christmas is going to be spectacular, and I really believe it will be.
I think it will.
And as I say, it's really lit up the conversations about EastEnders. This is I know there's been a few stories that's kind of dragged a few people into kind of watching it, but then kind of pulling out of it. This is one of those where, if done right, it's dragged people in, and it should build up momentum now to Christmas. And you should really, and I really do feel from what I've heard conversations with people saying about the state of Coronation Street at the moment, and the state of Emmerdale at the moment. I think this is just the key opportunity to just pull in people. People have a thirst for a decent soap. They really do. Yeah. And if you can say, you know what, we do it well without kind of bending the rules of what you expect from EastEnders, because Chris Glenshaw had a really interesting quote this week, which we put on our Twitter at Walford Weekly. And he basically said that when this idea was pitched to us, when this idea was kind of given to me, I thought, right, but how can we do it so it fits within the framework of what you expect and see from the soap of EastEnders?
That's why we love him. That's why we love him.
And exactly. And Clement has knocked it again from the park, out the park, and he's done a really, spectacular,
right through the park.
out the park, and it's just wonderful to see it being played out like this.
Yeah, I mean,
theories are galore. There's so many throwing out.
Okay, so let's talk about that last scene and what we've actually got, because I mean, no soap. I will say this till the day I die. No soap does the whodunit mystery better than EastEnders, because they're kind of known for it. Like, no, all the other soaps try it, but EastEnders are the ones that have done the most famous kind of soap whodunits in the UK. So right from the start, we know that we need to now start paying attention to everything. Okay, so that last scene, let's discuss it. So you've got Sharon in a wedding dress for a start.
Yes.
On Christmas Day. Now we know that Kat and Phil are apparently getting married on Christmas Day, because there was a scene where Kat and Phil because of everything that was going on with Stacey and Ryan. Well, because of everything that was going on with Stacey and Ryan, they thought that, if they got married on Christmas Day, it would keep Lily around. So that means that Lily can't go to Ryan's on Christmas Day. It was a very forward-thinking planning on Kat's part. And Kat turns around to Phil and goes, "Can we move it to Christmas Day?" And Phil literally went, "Yeah, right, if you like. Yeah, whatever. As long as it happens, I don't care. Yeah, fine." So that's supposed to be happening. Sharon is apparently the one getting married on Christmas Day. So who is she marrying? Interesting points now. When she went into the loo with Keanu, she pushed him into the cubicle, and the camera zoomed in on the lock, and it said engaged. Now, obviously, that's because they were locking the door so that nobody could come in. But is she gonna get engaged to Keanu?
What, and have a wedding on Christmas Day?
Maybe. So does that mean it might be Keanu on the floor?
I mean, again, that's clearly not out of the realms of possibility. Yeah, that's I mean, it also
Keanu had a great week.
I mean, he did. He did a lot. That's interesting, isn't it? See Keanu, but then why would Keanu be? What would Keanu have done? Or what would have caused Keanu to then have to be? Because from the way it was being put across, it felt to me that the women, if not all of them, some of them had in one way or another been attacked or were in the process of being attacked by this person. It wasn't that they were defenseless. It wasn't like Archie when he was picking up the snow globe and then he got attacked from behind with the Queen Vic bust. It feels like it was a direct eye-to-eye smack on the head, possibly with a champagne bottle we saw Denise holding, which has been smashed. But that could have been part of it. It could have been a bottle and then maybe a knife, a stabbing, a knife, maybe.
Could be.
I don't know. Sharon, it feels to me that it's definitely attacking rather than it's a defenseless attack.
I mean, there are injuries sort of scattered around the scene. So Sharon's got a blood stain on the top of it on her front. So there's blood on Sharon. Stacey has blood on her hands while standing in the Vic. Not the first time that's ever happened, as well we know. Kathy's dress was torn. and Linda had a cut lip. Now, there was also a moment in that flash forward where Kathy and Suki are in frame together, and Kathy kind of stares at Suki for some reason, and it looks a little bit more than, oh my God, look what's happened. It seems something else was going on there, something significant, like a significant look at between Kathy and Suki, did you not think?
Yeah, again, this is something we kind of, this is something Ben actually kind of threw out on our Twitter. He suggested that perhaps Suki walked in on it, and so Suki maybe wasn't privy, like wasn't part of it, but walked in on it, so is now part of it, which kind of would then take away the prospect of it being Nish, perhaps.
I don't know.
It's difficult, isn't it?
We're not supposed to. Let's be honest. We're not supposed to have any idea what's going on at this stage.
We're not. But the fact it's been filmed in such a way that there is so many different scopes you can take this, so many different angles.
So exciting.
It's just another way it's just been done so nicely.
Also, there's a suit of armor. What the hell is a suit of armor doing? That's the biggest mystery of all to me at the moment. Like, why the hell is there a suit of armor? Then it's standing behind Stacey. Now, in his little interview, Clenners has said that Linda receives a knight in shining armor this week in regards to Vic, hence her mystery phone call. We don't know who that is.
Yes.
Is that so? That maybe has he done that connection? Yeah, is he just standing there like, I'll save the day. So is that connected to it in some way? It's just brilliant. I love it because there's just like you say, there's so many different directions to go off in. I mean, the guy on the floor. Any theories about who? If you had to say who you think that is on the floor right now, who would you say?
Well, before I give a kind of like an idea of who I think it could be. To be fair, though, I think it could be one of a few people, but then I think that's just a weedy way out. There was an interview, wasn't there, with Kerry Bright, and she said that they recorded that twice. One with Sharon saying he's dead, one with Sharon saying she's dead.
Yes.
They broadcast the one where she said he's dead.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that I now, in retrospect, wish that they hadn't done. I wish they'd said they're dead, because then it could have left it up in the air for it could have been a he or a she. Because then I would have then thrown the idea on the table that it possibly could be Eve, and I don't know why, but I feel. But and of course it's not now. But it just felt like the Eve would have been. If I had time to think about it a bit more, I feel like Eve would have been an interesting someone to die. Not that I would want them to die, but it would be an interesting one.
I don't know. I mean, the other thing, of course, is that this body is wearing cufflinks. Now, the cufflinks seemed important.
Yeah, well, it does feel important, but I can guarantee that by the beginning of December, Billy will have a market store selling knockoff cufflinks.
It's going to be
every single man and their father will be buying them.
It's going to be the store version of that scene of when in the Lucy scene when someone was like when Emma was ringing somebody and then you're just standing around. There's a phone ringing in there somewhere, but we don't know where the phone call's coming from. It's going to be that sort of thing, which I love. I mean, obviously, there's a photo kicking around. I think you might have retweeted it that Phil is wearing cufflinks at some point, and now Phil does wear a lot of cufflinks, but I don't think this is Phil on the ground. Sharon would be in a much more devastation if it was Phil. I think so. I know you'd love it. I know you'd love it to be Phil. It's not going to be Phil.
Well, funny enough, I would be super impressed if Phil is the one who died. I agree with you. I don't think it will be Phil, and in a weird way, I don't want it to be Phil because I love my storyline with Phil's ex so much more.
Yes.
But I would be super impressed if it was Phil. But the interesting part for me isn't so much who's on the floor. Possibly, well, they must be dead because they say he's dead.
She's dead.
Yeah. But for me,
unless Boxing Day. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. I fell asleep. I do apologize.
I don't think Alfie fell to the bottom of the stairs and everyone thought he was dead, and then next minute he was up and gone somewhere. But for the interesting thing for me is, who is it who did it? Is it one of the 6 that we see in that circle? Well, or is there a mysterious 7th person that we saw off camera? Possibly.
I mean, it's the sort of twist that they throw in. For what it's worth, my feeling at the moment, if I had to say who it is, as in who's on the floor, I've got a feeling that it might be Rocky. And I don't know why, but purely because we know the stories that's going on with everybody else involved in that group at the moment. We know that there's something going on with Rocky in the background, but at this point, that's the story that has been paid the least attention to at this stage. And Kathy is within this group for a reason. At the minute, Kathy is just kind of there by circumstance, whereas you can imagine everybody else having a reason to be there on Christmas Day. Whereas Kathy, it's like, why are you there? Like, what's going on there? So it makes me think that Kathy is going to be sort of the key component going forwards, and that this story with her and Rocky and this apparent missus that he's got somewhere else and their wedding is all, because again, Kathy and Rocky is supposed to be getting married this year as well. So there's that also.
Well, she mentioned it again. She said, "Oh, it's nice that you've got a set date." Rocky won't even bother.
Yeah, more than what I've got.
It could be.
Yeah,
but what would Rocky see? Us talking about there being an attack. How we don't, I don't want them to kind of rewrite Rocky, because I can't imagine Rocky being. I know he's a cotton, but I don't see him being violent.
Going dark Rocky. Yeah, I know.
Dark Rocky. But Keanu, I couldn't see being violent. See, this is the thing. I can't see any of the current male cast.
Well,
I genuinely can't see anyone being that, like, in that kind of.
Yeah,
attacking them.
Although I tell you who you can see attacking somebody else is one of the women in that group. You know, there's no reason why Linda might not have a cutlet because, I don't know, Suki's punched her, or while they've been having a row, someone slapped her.
Yeah.
So all of those, you know, Stacey's there, for Christ's sake. Stacey's very violent when she wants to be. You know, all of them have the potential to kind of, you know, get into a fight. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's an injury in there somewhere that's in relation to one of the women having a scrap or something. So there's that possibility there as well. I just love it though, because we're at that really nice early stage of like mystery where it's kind of like it could be anything. We're desperately kind of grasping at clues as to what might be going on, and we're probably all completely wrong at this stage because there's stuff that hasn't even been aired yet. You know, they're not going to have started answering questions yet. You know, we've got 10 months of this to come. It's so exciting. That's how that's how much foreplanning is going on at the moment. We are 10 months into the future, and the right exactly where we're going.
Another welcome.
I love it.
Thing they're bringing back into EastEnders. They're actually looking to the future and looking and saying, like, right, we've got a story. This is how we're going to do it. This is the beginning, the middle, and the end. And I've got real confidence and trust that that's exactly,
so have I.
Exactly what they're planning forward.
After Christmas Day, you're going to have the aftermath of whatever's gone on as well. Because if somebody is dead, and presumably it seems like maybe these 6 women will keep this secret. So you've got the after story of this to come, which probably the way that these soap stories work will kick off a new story in itself. So they've planned themselves I imagine they probably have a good idea where we're going for Christmas 2024 as well. It's just, I love it. I love it. And I'm very excited.
What about February 2025?
Well, indeed. And then what?
Because that's something else I would have loved in a weird way, but then this would have been a heck of a commitment. Imagine if they flash forward to February 2025. That would have been interesting. Mike Jordan just hit the ground. That'd be a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been Chris Crenshaw saying, like, "Yep, I'm staying for the 40th. Get ready for Crenshaw's anniversary action."
I'd have cried into my cushion if that had happened. I'd have been so happy. But we've got what we've got, and what we've got, I love. So let us know in the comment section below. Throw all your theories down there, soap detective fans. Let us know what you think is going on. There was one other clue this week, the next episode, when Stacey received all the wedding dresses from Mo. Because apparently Mo was sent.
Oh yeah.
Well, one of the dresses she pulled out was the dress that Sharon is wearing in the aftermath. In the flash forward. Now, also what was interesting about that, in the trailer, when they were all in their outfits that they were wearing on Christmas Day, I thought it was really a clever little twist on it, that Sharon in the trailer was in a white suit. Everybody else was in the outfit that they're wearing on that Christmas Day, but Sharon was in a white suit, and then obviously is in the Christmas Day flash forward. She's in her wedding dress, so they kind of wanted to keep that little bit secret, so put Sharon in a different outfit for the trailer, which I liked. That was quite clever. But let us know.
They've released that really cool trailer as well. Saturday's music video, a lot of people likened it to, where they're all kind of wearing the different color dresses. They did look like Cluedo pieces. I must admit, when someone said like that, they've clearly been
probably through. As well.
But I thought, fine. Yeah, it's just nice to see these kind of promos and these photo shoots, because you don't see them very much. All we need now, if I'm going to be super picky, is they need to do a cast photo outside the Vic for 2023, because they used to do them every couple of years, and they haven't done them in such a long time. Nice big cast photo with them all sat there, smiling up at the camera.
And talking of promo pictures, and I'm genuinely serious when I say this, I want that picture of the 6 women in their dresses and all like smoke coming up for them. I want that on a canvas on my wall. Genuinely, if anybody has any idea how to make that happen, please let me know, because I want that on my wall, because it's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Lovely.
So There we are then. So yeah, carry on.
But we well, no, I was going to say we've talked about this for half an hour, and I think we've got a couple of other things we need to talk about this week as well. Yeah. So, but as Rob has said a couple of times, do get in touch with us. Comment below. Get in touch with us. Let us know what you think of any more theories of what's up and coming. Anyway, so moving on is the next story, and it's Suki, Eve, and Nish. One thing that came out then of Monday's episode was Suki and Nish's relationship, which we've touched on, the fact that Nish is basically undermining her authority, making her feel like she's second rate in their relationship, that she has she's losing control. A bit of gaslighting is probably going on as well. Yeah. And Eve is kind of like sitting back and watching this all happen. And I don't think in a malicious way, but kind of indicating that, you know, you've made that bed now, so you're gonna have to lie in it, and there's not much I can really do about it anymore. Although it is hurting Eve. I'm not being unfair by saying that, you know, I think it's killing Eve inside, but she doesn't really know what to do.
Yes, it's yeah, I mean it's I know. It's difficult to watch for Eve, I think. I think all she can really do at the moment is sort of wander into Suki's life now and again and be like, yeah, well, told you so, and they kind of wander out again because Suki is just kind of just closing her off and just not letting anybody in. Like I said earlier, I think Stacey's the only one at the moment now that is kind of maybe chipped a little bit away at Suki and given her sort of an outlet. So I don't think she can go and talk to Eve about it at the moment because she's battling all these internal feelings, you know, especially since Eve last week told her that she loved her. So she's battling with all this nonsense in her head. And yeah, Nish is just kind of getting more and more nasty with her now as well. This kind of coercive control storyline is really starting to kind of pick up pace now. Although it's not coming across as like a massively domestic abusey type storyline, as in terms of the fact that we're dealing with this issue now. It just seems to be a kind of factor in their relationship amongst everything else that's going on with Suki. So it's interesting the way it's still playing out. I mean, it was interesting that you kind of suspected that this is not all going to go well for Eve in the long run. So, I mean, where does she get out of this, apart from if that is Nish on the floor on Christmas Day? But how else can she kind of get out of this at the moment? Because it seems that Nish is the obvious suspect at the moment. If everybody was to say who is going to be on the floor on Christmas Day, a lot of people would say, well, it's got to be Nish, surely. But if it's not, how does she get out of it?
Well, this is it, isn't it? I mean, how, when, or how does Eve step in? You know, because at the moment, also Eve has that professional relationship with Nish as well, where she's, and we know for a fact that like money is very tight in the Slater household right now too. So you know that it's quite welcome to get that money from the Panasars, where Eve is doing that legal work for him. So I mean, you know, where does the line get drawn? At what point does Eve say, you know, what you're doing now is too far? And she actually says something to Nish. She has hinted at Nish on a couple of occasions that she doesn't kind of like the way that he treats Suki, but then he's kind of then thrown it back by kind of giving her things to like almost treat Suki with the disrespect as well, like that paperwork that she got Suki to sign, and she did it. Obviously not before Suki then kind of was a bit insulting and rude to her as well. It's tricky because obviously Suki is this very hardened woman. She's had to be, and so she's a very difficult person to kind of get inside and kind of relate to, and so a lot of people on the square don't want to. Karen being an example this week. Karen accidentally walked out the shop with the bacon. Suki, I didn't think Suki actually outright accused her to begin with, but then because Karen got quite argumentative about it, Suki then her front came up, and then that's what then caused them to have that big argument, and Karen to get very upset and say, oh, I never shop at the Minute Mart again, which, to be fair, I don't think it was that much of a loss. And also, I think that Nish felt like that Karen had more of an influence on the community than she actually has.
At the end of the day, I don't think she's going to shop. She doesn't own Asda.
Yeah. A campaign against like all like big supermarket chains, like, you know, the low cost down the road, you know, it's one little shop on the, you know, on next to the laundrette that sells her ciggies. I'm sure if Karen ran out, she's going to buy her ciggies from the Minute Mart one way or another. Exactly. So but I think again it was a power play by Nish, and I think it's just, as I say, I don't think Eve is enjoying watching this play out. No. But at the same time, she's tried and tried and tried and tried, and every time she's had her olive branch thrown back at her and just doesn't want to kind of accept it by Suki. But you can see that Suki is slowly crumbling, as you say, and it's something that Stacey noticed as well.
Well, there was an like as was said earlier, with that interesting conversation between her and Stacey. I thought it was quite interesting that Suki said that, you know, once Nish got sent to prison, she didn't think about sex for 20 years. The writers are now moving on from the Peter Beale stuff, which I think is probably wise.
For the best. For the best.
Yeah, for the best for all of us. Yeah, I think it's going to kind of trickle along for the rest of the year. Obviously, I think Suki is going to be a key component in whatever happens over the next 10 months. Obviously, they've got their wedding blessing coming up soon as well, so they're sort of so that
another wedding,
another wedding. So so holy matrimony in Walford is something entirely different.
Imagine if that flashback was literally every one of those women in a wedding dress. Whose wedding? That's the mystery.
To be fair, I mean, I wouldn't put it past Stacey to manage to get herself engaged by the end of the year as well. It's, you know.
No. I wouldn't put past Phil Mitchell having 5 brides also. I think it wouldn't be surprising for me at all.
Like Henry VIII.
I want all the women. Yeah, I want all the women of Walford to be in my under my arm. Yeah.
So that's ticking along on nicely, and we'll just kind of have to wait and see what happens next. But yeah, it's getting tricky for Eve now, I think, and I'm waiting, I think, now for the moment where Eve will snap. I think Eve will snap before Suki does, and we'll kind of just have a massive go at Nish about something, and then it's going to really start causing chaos between them, because she is now the only way that Suki can get out. Essentially, as much as Suki is kind of pushing her away, I think Suki also knows that that's my only outlet to happiness at the moment, and I don't know how to. I can't think of any alternative paths. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next.
If we, because there was obviously, I said, like, what if there's a seventh person behind, like, the camera of who murdered the person? Could that be Eve who murdered? And it isn't it Nish? Yeah, you know, there's so many possibilities, so much to do. But yeah, so that's kind of carrying along, and I mean, it's very sad. I mean, we'll talk about Denise and Ravi in a few moments. But obviously it could be Ravi, but obviously that's Suki's noticed something between them two as well. So that's something else we'll need to talk about when we talk about them too. But before any of that, the next story is the rekindling of Sheanu. Yes, it's back.
Yay!
At the top of the week, as we know, Sharon and Keanu had sex in the cubicle of the Vic. But then that relationship broke down because Keanu got the job at Peggy's, but Sam decided to leave as the voicemail. But we won't be getting up to any of those shenanigans again, which then caused Sharon to be a bit like, oh, well, you're there, which I felt was a bit unfair, because it'd been a year and, like, things, you know, a lot of water had passed.
I mean, the hypocrisy of Sharon at the moment is a little bit kind of difficult to chew on, because basically she is, bearing in mind how her and Keanu kind of began via an affair, you can't really have a go at Keanu for going to have sex with someone while he was single a year ago. I mean, come on, Sharon, now. Come on, love. Honestly. But we are being led to believe now that Keanu is head over heels in love for Sharon, apparently, despite the fact that if Sharon tells him to leave the house, then he's quite happily to go off and go and have sex with somebody else, as he does this week with Chelsea. Now, I have to say, the Chelsea and Keanu thing kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it? Because it seemed like they were building up to him and Sam starting off again, which would have made sense. But out of nowhere, Chelsea's decided that she's going to get a clause into him, and now they've started having this little fling. And by the end of the week, it's implied that they're going to continue said fling, because Sharon, once she finds out about Chelsea, gets all upset and basically says once again, because I mean, they were together and apart and together and apart, basically like Sharon's legs this week, weren't they? Just all going around all over the place.
I mean, Sharon's like a teenage girl again, isn't she?
She is.
She's having this
brings it out
with
of her.
Keanu.
I mean, Keanu had a great week.
Keanu had a lovely week. Like, there wasn't a moment when he wasn't.
I know. Keanu had the week of his life this week. So him and Chelsea are now sort of on the agenda. I mean, where is this going exactly? Because obviously, technically, both of them are now single. So it's not like there's an affair going on. So the whole Sheanu sort of naughty affair storyline is kind of a thing of the past, and they're now like they could now be like a genuine couple. But can you see a future for them? Is this going to work, do you think?
I could when Keanu first returned and he had, you know, he made a beeline to Sharon and wanting to have a life with LB. I kind of could see it then. But now I can't, because I feel like that it's kind of like Sharon's and Keanu have kind of ruined it now between them. And there's always going to be a suspicion between them about like who's doing what with when and where now. You know, it's like it just doesn't feel like it matches up anymore. So I feel like they should just kind of just burn their bridges and run, to be honest with you. And I don't mind the relationship with Chelsea and Keanu, but Chelsea clearly doesn't want a relationship. She just wants to have fun.
A bit of fun,
which which is kind of come from, I guess, the back of Ravi rejecting her, I guess, because so maybe she feels a bit like, you know, I maybe tried to kind of be wooed, but I don't really want that anymore. I just want to kind of just be, because she also said like I've had enough of marriages this week when she was talking about her and Gray.
You can't blame her for that, really, can you?
No.
So we'll kind of see where this is going, but again, it's Sharon's within the 6, so it is possibly that Keanu could be the one that's on the ground on the Christmas day. We don't know. It's a component. The fact that Sharon's wedding dress apparently turned up this week as well, that she's going to be wearing on Christmas Day. Again, it's all.
Do you think she's going to marry Keanu? Because I genuinely think that it's going to be. But then after this week, when Kat and Sharon had that lovely scene when Karen yelled at Sharon in the Vic, saying, "Oh, you ruined our lives," and then Kat went over to her and to Sharon and kind of sympathised with her. So I don't think Sharon would do the dirty on Kat, but she has kissed Phil on what was meant to be their wedding day.
Exactly. So of course she would. Of course,
but the sisterhood. I know Kat wasn't part of the sisterhood, but it's
They are building Sharon and Kat up to be the new Pat and Peggy, effectively, aren't they? They're trying to kind of make that. They're trying to make those parallels. So of course Sharon would do that. Of course she would, because at the end of the day, if Phil was to click his fingers, Sharon would go running. And as much as she chooses to deny it, of course she would. So there is every single possibility.
No love like a Mitchell love.
Exactly. So there is every possibility.
The famous word she told Kat.
So there is every possibility that something is, because I cannot see Kat and Phil still being together on Christmas Day. With 10 months' time, I can't see it myself. So
I'm surprised they've lasted this long.
Exactly.
And it cracks me up. It cracks me up, like kind of like you see the power play between Nish and Suki, and then you see almost the mirror. The opposite, where it's Kat and Phil, where Kat's literally telling Phil what to invest in and what's right and what's wrong. And I did love bored Phil this week as well, when he was like sharpening pens and seeing if they worked. Sharpening pencils and seeing if pens worked in a pot of stationery. He was clearly very bored. His chicken shops obviously took a lot of work.
They kept him busy all day long, apparently, because now you say all he can do is sharpen pencils now. So I don't know. I think the Kat and Phil thing might have something to do with over the next 10 months, but I don't know. Again, we will see what happens. Put your comments in theories in the boxes below.
We talked about it earlier then. So Suki has noticed that there is a little bit of tension between Denise and Ravi. She's kind of like told Ravi to kind of sort it out, because we don't need that exposure on the square. We're our family and their empire growing and blah, 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 and be part of the family. And so Ravi's solution to this was to get a hotel room, give Denise the key and say, come on over, we'll shag it out of ourselves, and then we'll never want to see each other again. And then you can go back to Jack, I'll go back to my own life, and everything will be hunky-dory, lovely, and we'll be fine. And Denise kind of was onto this idea. I think Denise was like, yeah, actually, that sounds fine. That seems fine. I've seen his chest.
To be fair, if this week gave us nothing, it was a lot of Ravi chest stuff, and I wasn't disappointed.
Ravi,
we do need to discuss Ravi, I think, because is there, do you think, a bit of a dark segment to this story with Ravi? Because I've seen a lot of kind of opinions online about this story that Ravi hasn't been everyone's cup of tea with this story. Now, the way I've been seeing it is that I can sort of see Ravi is sort of taking advantage of the fact that Denise is sort of tottering over her marriage a little bit at the moment, and she can tell that she's bored, and he's sort of taking advantage of that. But I think some people are seeing a slightly more darker side to this, and that's saying that he's kind of been really forceful on her and harassing her. And I mean, do you see any of that side of things with Ravi at the moment?
I get that. I do. I must say, I do get that. And it's weird because he pushes her and pushes her and pushes her. And then when she gets to the edge, he then kind of says, "Oh no, I'll do this properly," and then kind of steps back, but then he can then pushes her more and more and more. I don't think he's offering anything to something that Denise doesn't want. So I think it's unfair to say he kind of forced it on Denise. I don't. Not that people are saying that, but I don't think like he's pushed this onto Denise. Yes, it all started with him after they had that night out, and they kind of were talking about their problems. Him talking about like him being a single father, and her talking about having to deal with Jack's kids and so on. And then he tried to kiss her. I guess that he initiated it, and then he's kind of like taken it and ran with it a bit more than what Denise has. Yeah, but I don't think Denise isn't someone who would not would follow along for no reason. So I feel like she's as part of it as much as Ravi is. I have to be honest with you. And I think some of the things she said this, on the Wednesday and Thursday episode to Jack when she was about to sneak off to the hotel room. Jack found the key card after a very, very tense 5 minutes, which I really enjoyed as well. That was really fun watching her walking around the house trying to find that key card. Not words spoken, just that music from Amy's room coming out.
Thank you, Mr. Ashdown.
Yes, very, very lovely scene. And when Jack kind of like, yes, Jack can be very brash, very forward, and it's like, oh, you've got a hotel room, we're going to off to see someone who loves the sex. Denise kind of went, well, fine then. I'll come home. I'll make the dinner, shall I? Shall I wash your socks for you, Mr. Branning? And I thought Denise being a little bit kind of snidey and a little bit kind of because obviously Jack's in a bit of a tricky situation. Yeah. And Denise has just so happened to, to find herself in that situation too. But instead of kind of like being supportive, I feel like Denise is kind of taking an easy way out and looking after number one, which is herself. Which isn't a bad thing, but at the same thing, I think is, to then put the blame onto Ravi would feel a bit unfair.
I agree.
In a sense. Everyone tell me how wrong I am.
Oh, isn't he getting brave now? He's finishing his podcast. Doesn't he get brave? I think the way that they told this story this week was really interesting because this didn't actually feel like where we thought it was going to be was kind of like, Denise is going to go to the hotel and she's going to have sex with Ravi, and then this official affair storyline will begin. But actually what we got this week was sort of kind of, especially on Wednesday's episode, was sort of just basically going into Denise's head and sort of watching her kind of feeling guilty because the lies started when she was saying to people, oh no, I'm off to see Libby, and seeing kind of like the journey that she was taking to get to the point where she was actually building herself up to go and do this thing that she wasn't sure whether she wanted to do or not, and sort of trying to battle with temptation. And that's the thing with this, is that Denise is definitely tempted. It's not like Ravi is forcing her into this at all. Yes, I can see a perspective where he is playing mind games with her a little bit and sort of kind of taking advantage of the situation. But Denise is tempted, and Denise did want to go there. She did not have to go to the hotel. And Ravi at one point, even when they were in the hotel room, said, we don't have to do anything if you don't want to. We'll do this completely at your speed. Now, obviously, he wasn't expecting her to go, well, actually, no, I don't want to do this, and then walking out again. Yeah. That wasn't part of Ravi's plan. But there was a moment right at the end of the week where Ravi was sort of standing outside their house. And it made me wonder, are we going to get into a little bit of a sort of stalkery type storyline with it or something? Do you know what I mean? There was those kind of undertones of it going a little bit darker in the future. Or
like he's becoming a bit obsessed with Denise. Yeah, it's like not that it's like it's a goal to get in bed with Denise, but like he's just obsessed with the idea of Denise. Yeah, because the idea of having Denise with him.
Exactly, because we can't forget that Ravi is a dark character. We met him when he was in prison, and we've seen him kill somebody. And we've watched him quite easily kind of keep his lies going and everything kind of like that. So there is that side to Ravi that it's important not to forget about. And there is that side to Ravi that could very well mean that he's the one that's on the floor on Christmas Day. So I think there is a darkness there with Ravi, and I wonder if they are going in that direction with it. But what we got this week, I loved, I have to say.
Oh no, I enjoyed. Cool. I enjoyed all of the scenes. Like I said, I really, really liked the scene where Denise was having to start making lies, to her own daughter, saying that she was going to see Libby. She was getting herself caught up with that, and then when Jack found the key card, she then had to say, "Oh well, I wanted some time to myself. I wanted to go to a spa. I wanted to look after myself." And Jack the detective. You always forget Jack's a detective. Jack Jack then kind of worked out that, well, yeah, but you're wearing a really nice dress. So you're clearly off to see someone really nice. Yeah. Jack, I must say, was then kind of being a bit. Earlier I said, Denise was being a bit mean by saying, "Oh, right, fine, I'll stay at home and be a mum." But then, then Jack was like, "No, don't let me ruin your night. You go off and do what you want to do, and I'll look after the kids. You go,
yeah, I'll look after my own."
And then
kids.
Denise. Yeah, and then Denise, just tell me what they want from the burger shop. And then Denise, and then when Denise almost wanted Jack to give her an out. Do you know what I mean? Denise kind of almost begged him to say, like, I can stay if you want me to. Oh, the calendar's falling off the wall, everyone.
Off the wall.
Anyone who's not watching the podcast, Denise was begging him to, give her an opportunity to stay. But Jack wasn't letting her. And I don't know. And I would say it's because Jack was a progressive man and he realized that, that she does have needs and she wants to kind of have some time to herself, kind of relax, unwind, have some treatments. But I don't think it's that. I think Jack was just kind of like cutting his nose off to spite his face.
Yeah.
And so he kind of let Denise go.
Yeah.
But that also raises a question of the reason Denise stopped Ravi from sleeping together. Was it because she didn't want it, or was it because she thought it was the right thing to do? And she thought it was the right thing to do, then perhaps that was the wrong reasons, because then that still will have that rift between her and Jack.
Yeah, I mean, that was what was interesting about the way that they told it this week, was because normally, so easily in soaps people have affairs, and we never seem to delve into sort of the guilt that can bring, and sort of the moment where Denise is kind of looking at herself in the mirror and thinking, there is a reason why I'm stood in this hotel. What has brought me to this moment? Why am I here, and what is the future going to bring if I do this? So it was a really sort of interesting, almost psychological study of what a woman in that situation does. And I mean, I don't know quite what she was planning on doing, because at one point when her and Jack were talking, she was like, "Well, come with me then. Come with me." I don't know what she would have done, and Jack had gone, "Yeah, that's a great idea."
She was bluffing. She was double bluffing. She was playing the game there. She was gaslighting Jack then.
Yeah.
That relationship between them.
Yeah, I mean, what cannot be denied is that Denise is not happy in her marriage at the moment, and their marriage is on rocky ground. And I don't think Jack realises quite how rocky ground his marriage is on. This is by far not over. Even though Denise has said to Ravi, "No, I don't want this. I'm never going to want this. Go away. Leave me alone." You do get the feeling that there is still that kind of segment of her that is wondering, yeah, but what if? The what if, I think, is going to be pushing Denise forward with this. Again, it seems like it's going to be quite a big few months for Denise, which is great because it's been a while since Denise has had a big story. But yeah, this is all very interesting. But I think we need to be keeping an eye on Ravi. I feel like there is a darkness to that side of the story that's going to start coming out soon. So we'll have to wait and see. Yeah,
as I say, as you say, when Ravi was stood outside the house and you could see he was kind of like looking on, it was a bit concerning. Like, how far will Ravi go? And also, we mustn't forget that there's still that sideline story where Jack knows that Ravi's talking to the bigwigs and up to no good. Also the main man, because also he went to detective training, didn't he, Jack?
Detective school.
He went somewhere, didn't he? He went off for some training for 2 weeks.
Yeah, he went off to police. He went off to policeman. He went off to policeman school to learn how to be a policeman. It was all very good. And then couldn't be asked to stay. And just was like, "No, I'm not doing this." And they just came home again.
Amy messaged him, didn't she? Because Amy that morning was storming into basically. Denise isn't taking care of me, and I don't like it very much, and she's not paying me full attention. And Jack's like, "Well, then I better come home." But again, Jack didn't come home. Jack didn't come home for Denise. He came home for his kids. Yeah. Which, again, whose side are you on with this? Because Denise is kind of
tricky.
Like, who's the priority here? Is it the kids or is it me? Because Denise is having to put the kids forward first as well. But Denise has needs. It's a very complicated situation.
It's layered and it's complex.
There's no night and day.
No, because you can sort of see the bad side and from both sides, like you say. Like, at the end of the day, they are Jack's kids and they are going to be his priority. But it's not as though Denise has been like a bad mother to these kids either. It's not like she's kind of, mistreating them or anything. But all she's wanting, I think, is a little bit more attention from Jack. But at the same time, maybe it is time for her to sort of just step back a bit and say, actually, no, your kids need your full attention right now because your kids are a bit crazy at the moment. So it's. I mean, their lives are a bit crazy at the moment. I mean, so it's really interesting. I'm kind of intrigued to see where this goes. It's given more layers to an affair storyline than I would have expected, which is good. So yeah.
Well, we just thought it was going to be Denise and a love triangle between her daughter and her
big old soapy affair story.
It's all going on now. You know, Jack's involved, Callum's involved. God knows how Callum got involved, but he's now involved.
I don't imagine Ravi's going to lose much sleep over Callum's involvement. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe Callum was at police school too, so he might have learned some stuff.
Well, that's what I was wondering. If he went to, maybe that's what Jack did. He was like his like shadowing Callum to become his detective.
Maybe.
Can I also give kudos to Scott Mazdon's sleeping acting this week, because that cracked me up when Denise went into the bedroom and you just saw him.
In his little white vest. Good night. Yeah, just
I half expected him to have, those caps that they have in like the film, like Disney films, when the old people go off in their little lamp.
Yeah.
I half expected Jack to have one of those little hats that kind of flopped over one side of his head and a white nightie, like Grandpa Joe had in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh yes, little bed cap.
Yeah. He's got the golden little bed cap. That'd be nice. That'd be nice. But there you go, Rob. That's the week. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have time to do I Want to Gossip this week. I'm afraid.
Is very, very anal when it comes to timing of this podcast, and we've clearly spoken far too long.
We had a lovely section at the top, though, so that was fun.
We did.
This
was a week. This was a week, and this was clearly setting up the rest of the year. So it's very exciting. Clenners has officially stuck his pole in the ground, and I'm very excited to see what we're going to see. I really am. So let us know all your theories and comments and thoughts about what's to come, what's happened this week, who's on the ground, who does it, what's going to happen with Denise and Ravi, who's Sharon marrying. Stick it all below, or do the following by contacting us on Twitter and Instagram at Walford Weekly. You can find us on Facebook at Walford Weekly Podcast. On YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to get notifications about our spoiler videos. And you can follow us on Apple, Anchor, Spotify, or any of your favourite podcast sites. Email us at robwalfordweekly@gmail.com or alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com. Yes.
Sorry, Rob's reminded me. Actually, I should say that you may find. I won't say the ins and outs. Rob knows the ins and outs. I won't go through the whole 20-minute splurge with him.
It was very dull.
But it's incredibly dull. But it's stuff that Rob has to know in the future.
Yes, this is true.
Basically, we're having to move where we present our podcast from one to another.
Yes.
I'm not naming names on purpose, but I may have a moan about it one day somewhere. And because of this, where you're listening to your podcast may be affected. So I can guarantee that you will still be able to listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And of course, you'll still be able to watch us on YouTube. Okay, good.
There we are then. So we will be back possibly same time next week. Apparently there's some weird scheduling stuff going on next week. So we will be around at some point over the weekends. Could be Saturday, could be Sunday, but we'll be here. All right, we'll be here at some point next weekend for 4 shows left of Walford Weekly. It's going to start getting emotional soon, Alex. I won't lie to you. I might have to bring tissues.
5 more shows.
After this one? Oh, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I've never been any good at
6,
counting.
7, 8, 9, 10.
Oh, there you go. So, until next time, darling viewers and listeners, it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from myself.
Bye. So I hope you're proud of yourself.